That was before. His hand found her waist, pulled her back. Before I knew you. Before I... He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. Before I fell in love with you. The world seemed to tilt. You're in love with me? Is that really a surprise? Maya, I can't imagine my life without you anymore. Coming home to you, falling asleep next to you, waking up with you. The way you hog the blankets and read with a flashlight when you think I'm asleep. The way you defend me to everyone, even when I don't deserve it. The way you look at me like I'm something special instead of just a Robert's heir. I love all of it. I love you. Tears stung Maya's eyes. You can't. Too late. I already do. Daniel, this is a mistake. We're making a mistake. Loving you is not a mistake. It is when it ends. Maya's voice broke. When 6 months from now, I take my settlement and leave, what then? We'll have hurt each other for no reason. We'll have broken something that was working. Or we could be together. Really together. No contract, no end date. Just us. It was everything Maya wanted and everything she was terrified of. Because what if Daniel was only saying this because they were caught up in the romance of it all? What if in a year or 2 years or 5, he woke up and realized he'd trapped himself with someone who wasn't from his world, who didn't fit into his life the way a proper wife should? I need time to think, Maya said. This is too much too fast. Daniel's expression closed off. Of course. Take all the time you need. The drive home was silent, the easy intimacy of earlier replaced by tension. That night, for the first time since they'd started sharing a bed, Daniel slept with his back to her, creating a wall of space between them that felt miles wide. Maya barely slept, her mind racing. Daniel loved her. He wanted to stay married. It should have been simple. She loved him too, desperately. But nothing about their situation was simple. In the morning, Grace called, sensing something was wrong through their best friend telepathy. Talk to me, Grace demanded. What happened? Maya told her everything, Daniel's confession, her panic, the impossible choice she was facing. Let me get this straight, Grace said slowly. The gorgeous billionaire you were contractually obligated to marry has fallen in love with you, wants to stay married for real, and you're treating this like a problem? It is a problem. Grace, what if he changes his mind? What if his family doesn't accept it? What if? What if you spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been because you were too scared to take a chance? Grace interrupted. Maya, I've known you since we were kids. You've always been the brave one. You quit a stable job to work in publishing for half the pay because you loved books. You agreed to marry a stranger to save your father. But now, when real happiness is right in front of you, you're running scared. I'm not scared. I'm being realistic. You're terrified. And I get it. Your mom died, and you saw how much it destroyed your dad. You're afraid that if you let yourself love Daniel completely, something will happen to take him away. But Maya, that's not living. That's just existing. What if he realizes I'm not enough? That I don't fit into his world? Has he given you any indication he feels that way? Maya thought about the past months. Daniel had never treated her like she didn't belong. He'd introduced her proudly, defended her fiercely, chosen her company over business obligations more than once. When she'd felt insecure at a dinner with international clients, nervous about which fork to use, he'd whispered, "They're just forks. The food tastes the same regardless." He'd made her feel valued, seen, loved. No, Maya admitted quietly. He's never made me feel less than. Then maybe the problem isn't him. Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to believe you deserve this happiness. After they hung up, Maya sat in the library, the room that had become her sanctuary, and forced herself to really examine her fears. Was Grace right? Was she self-sabotaging because some part of her didn't believe she deserved Daniel? That someone like her, ordinary Maya Johnson from a modest background, could hold the heart of someone like Daniel Roberts? She found Daniel in his study, going through paperwork with a grim expression. He looked up when she entered, his face carefully neutral. Can we talk? Maya asked. If you're here to tell me you need more time, I already got the message. Actually, I'm here to tell you I'm an idiot. Daniel's pen stopped mid-signature. What? Maya moved into the room, closing the door behind her. I'm an idiot. You told me you love me, that you want to really be together, and I panicked. Because I'm scared, Daniel. I'm so scared. Of me. Of losing you. Of this not being real. Of waking up one day and realizing this was all too good to be true. She crossed to his desk, her hands trembling. My mom died, and I watched my dad barely survive it. I swore I'd never put myself in a position to hurt like that. And then you happened, And I fell in love with you even though I tried not to, and now I'm terrified because loving you means you could destroy me. Daniel stood, coming around the desk to take her hands. Maya, but I realized something this morning, she continued, needing to get it all out. Being scared is not a good enough reason to walk away from you. From us. Because yes, this could end badly. You could wake up one day and realize I'm not sophisticated enough or connected enough or whatever enough for your world. Or I could lose you to an accident or illness or any of the million things that take people we love. But none of that changes the fact that I love you. I'm in love with you, Daniel. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you. Daniel's eyes were bright with emotion. Say that again. I love you. Again. I love you, Daniel Roberts. And if you still want to tear up that contract and try this for real, no end date, no walking away, I'm in. I'm all in. Daniel pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. I love you so much, he said against her hair. I love you, and I'm not letting you go. Ever. Even when I'm being an idiot? Especially then. He kissed her, and Maya felt like she was falling and flying all at once. This was real. They were real. The contract, the arrangement, the pretending, all of it had somehow transformed into actual love. We need to tell my grandfather, Daniel said when they finally broke apart. The contract requires renegotiation if we want to change the terms. Do you think he'll agree? I think he's a romantic at heart, even if he doesn't show it. Plus, he likes you. He told me after the gala where you stood up to Marcus that you had steel in your spine. From him, that's high praise. They went to see George that afternoon at Robert's tower. Maya's stomach was in knots as they rode the elevator to his office. What if he refused? What if he thought she was trying to trap Daniel for his money? What if? Daniel squeezed her hand. Breathe. It's going to be fine. George looked up when they entered, his expression curious. This is unexpected. What brings you both here on a Sunday? We need to discuss the contract, Daniel said, getting straight to the point. Specifically, we want to renegotiate the terms. George leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. I'm listening. The 1-year term, the automatic divorce at the end, we want those clauses removed. We want to stay married. Permanently. For a long moment, George said nothing, his sharp eyes moving between them. Maya's heart hammered. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face. It's about time. Wait, what? Daniel looked confused. You think I didn't see this coming? George chuckled. I picked Maya specifically because I thought you two might actually suit each other. The contract, the 1-year term, that was to give you both an out if it didn't work. But I hoped. He trailed off, looking almost embarrassed. I hoped you'd find what your parents had. Real love. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. You were matchmaking? I was giving you an opportunity. What you did with it was up to you. George pulled out a document from his desk drawer. I had my lawyers draw up an amendment months ago, just in case. It removes the 1-year term and the divorce clause. You'll need to sign it to make the marriage permanent under the trust terms. Daniel took the document, scanning it quickly. You've had this ready for months? Since the charity gala, actually. After I saw the way you looked at each other, the way Maya defended you to Marcus. I knew then that this had become more than a business arrangement. Why didn't you say anything? Maya asked. Because you two needed to figure it out yourselves. If I'd pushed, you might have resisted out of stubbornness. He smiled at Daniel. You always were contrary when you thought someone was manipulating you. Daniel shook his head, but he was smiling. You're a devious old man. I prefer strategic. Now, are you going to sign that amendment or not? They signed it together, their hands touching on the pen, making their temporary arrangement permanent. When they left George's office, Maya felt lighter than she had in months. The countdown was over. There was no end date hanging over them. They had all the time in the world. How should we celebrate? Daniel asked as they walked to the car. I have an idea, Maya said. Take me to meet your parents. Daniel's expression shifted, becoming serious. My parents are dead, Maya. I know. Take me to where they're buried. I want to pay my respects to the people who made you who you are. The cemetery was quiet, located in a peaceful spot overlooking the lagoon. Daniel's parents were buried side by side, their headstones simple but elegant. Daniel stood before them, silent, and Maya hung back, giving him space. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, Daniel said finally, his voice rough with emotion. I know it's been a while since I visited. I've been, busy isn't the right word. Lost, maybe. After you died, I threw myself into the company, into proving I could handle the legacy you left behind. I forgot to actually live. He reached back, and Maya stepped forward, taking his hand. This is Maya, my wife. And before you ask, yes, it started as a contract marriage. Grandfather schemed to get me to settle down. But it became real. She became real. Mom, she's stubborn and brave, and she loves books the way you did. Dad, she stood up to Marcus for me at a gala, embarrassed him in front of everyone. You would have loved that. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I wish you could have met her, Daniel continued. I wish I could ask you, Mom, if this is what love is supposed to feel like, terrifying and wonderful and like coming home all at once. I wish I could ask you, Dad, how you knew Mom was the one, how you knew you wanted forever. He was quiet for a moment, then said, but I think I already know, because when I think about my future, she's in every part of it. When I'm happy, she's the first person I want to tell. When things are hard, she's the one I turn to. She makes me want to be better, do better. She makes me believe in happy endings. Maya couldn't hold back anymore. She wrapped her arms around Daniel from behind, pressing her face against his back. They'd be so proud of you, she whispered. Of the man you've become. They stood there for a long time, the sun setting over the lagoon, casting everything in golden light. When they finally left, Daniel seemed lighter, like he'd put down a weight he'd been carrying for years. Thank you, he said as they drove home, for suggesting that. I didn't realize how much I needed it. Family is important, Maya said. Even the ones we've lost. That night, they made love with a new intensity, a new certainty. There was no holding back anymore, no protecting their hearts against inevitable loss. They were all in, completely committed forever. Afterward, lying in the darkness with Daniel's heartbeat steady under her ear, Maya whispered, I never believed in fate before. But this, us, it feels like it was supposed to happen. Even the difficult parts? Daniel asked. The contract, the forced marriage, all of it? Especially those parts. Because they brought us here. To this moment. To this life. Daniel's arms tightened around her. I love you, Mrs. Roberts. I love you too, Mr. Roberts. So we're really doing this? Forever. Forever, Maya confirmed. Outside, Lagos hummed with life. Millions of people going about their business, unaware that in a mansion in Ikoyi, two people who'd started as strangers were falling asleep as partners, lovers, soulmates. But life, as it tends to do, had other plans. Because while Maya and Daniel were busy falling in love, someone else was plotting their downfall. The problem started subtly. Small things at first. A gossip column questioning the authenticity of their relationship, noting how quickly they'd married. A business associate making pointed comments about contract marriages. Nothing serious, nothing they couldn't brush off. Then the photographs appeared. Maya was leaving a medical building in Victoria Island after a routine checkup when reporters swarmed her car. Mrs. Roberts, are you pregnant? Is that why you married Daniel so quickly? How far along are you? Maya was confused and overwhelmed. I'm not pregnant. I was just here for a regular appointment. But the next day, the headlines screamed. CEO's wife seen leaving fertility clinic. Trouble in paradise? The article was vicious, speculating that Maya and Daniel's marriage was in trouble because she couldn't give him an heir. It quoted anonymous sources close to the family, saying Daniel was already regretting the marriage, that Maya had trapped him with promises she couldn't keep. Daniel was furious when he saw it. This is Marcus. It has to be. He's been trying to undermine me in the company, and now he's going after you. How can you be sure it's him? Because who else would benefit from our marriage falling apart? If we divorce before the 2-year mark, there's a clause that could allow a board review of my control. Marcus has been angling for that since I took over. Maya felt sick. She'd almost forgotten about the politics, the power plays. She'd been so caught up in loving Daniel that she'd forgotten people like Marcus saw their relationship as a weakness to exploit. What do? She asked. We ignore it. We stay united. We don't give them any ammunition. But ignoring it proved difficult. More articles appeared, each more vicious than the last. Photos of Maya looking tired were used with headlines about her health. A picture of Daniel having lunch with a female colleague became, Robert seeks comfort elsewhere. Marriage already crumbling. Maya tried to stay strong, but the constant scrutiny was wearing. She stopped going out unless absolutely necessary. She became hyper-aware of every camera, every whisper. This isn't living, Grace said during one of their lunches, which now had to be held at the Roberts estate to avoid photographers. You're hiding. I'm being careful. You're letting them win. Maya, you stood up to Marcus at that gala. Where's that woman now? That woman didn't know what she was getting into, Maya said tiredly. That woman thought she could handle this world. But Grace, I don't fit here. Those articles, as cruel as they are, they're not entirely wrong. I'm not from this world. I don't have the right background, the right connections. Maybe Daniel would be better off with someone who does. Do not, Grace said firmly. Let them make you believe you're not enough. You are enough. You've always been enough. But the doubts had been planted, and they grew like weeds. Maya found herself second-guessing everything. What she wore, what she said, how she acted at events. She was trying so hard to be the perfect wife that she was losing herself in the process. Daniel noticed. Of course he noticed. Talk to me, he said one night, finding her staring out the bedroom window at the Lagos skyline. You've been distant for weeks. What's going on? I'm fine. You're not. Maya, we promised honesty, remember? Complete honesty. Maya turned to face him, and all her fears came tumbling out. What if they're right? What if I'm not cut out for this? Your world, your life. It's so different from anything I knew. Every event, every appearance, I feel like I'm performing, like I'm not good enough. And those articles are lies written by people who are jealous and vindictive. But what if there's truth in them? What if you'd be better off with someone from your world, someone who knows how to navigate this life without constantly feeling like they're drowning? Daniel crossed the room in 2 strides, taking her face in his hands. Listen to me very carefully. You are not drowning. You're learning, and that's different. Do you think I find this easy? This constant scrutiny, these expectations? I was born into it, and I still struggle sometimes. But you know what makes it bearable? You. Coming home to you. Knowing that at the end of all the performance and politics, I get to be with someone who sees me, not just the Roberts name. But, no buts. Maya, you are my choice. Not because of a contract, not because of convenience, but because I love you. The real you. The woman who reads with a flashlight under the covers, who cries during romance novels, who defended me to Marcus without hesitation, who makes me want to be better. That's who I chose. That's who I'll always choose. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He pressed his forehead to hers. We're in this together, remember? You and me against the world. So stop trying to be someone you're not. Stop trying to fit into some imaginary mold of what a billionaire's wife should be. Just be Maya. That's all I need. Maya felt something loosen in her chest, the tight knot of anxiety unraveling slightly. I'm sorry. I've been letting them get to me. We're going to fight back, Daniel said, his voice taking on a determined edge. Tomorrow, we're doing a joint interview. We're going to tell our story, the truth about how we met, how we fell in love, all of it. What about the contract? Your grandfather has already approved it. I called him earlier. He agrees that transparency is our best weapon against these rumors. We're not going to hide anymore. The interview was with Patricia Okonkwo, a respected journalist known for her tough but fair reporting. She came to the Roberts estate with a small crew, and Maya was nervous as they set up cameras in the library, the room that had become such an important part of their story. Relax, Daniel whispered, taking her hand as they sat on the couch. Just tell the truth. That's all we need to do. Patricia was professional and direct. Thank you both for agreeing to this. I know there's been a lot of speculation about your relationship. Why don't we start at the beginning? How did you two meet? Daniel and Maya looked at each other, and in that moment, they made a silent agreement. No more lies. No more performance. We met through a contract, Maya said, and she heard the crew's surprised intake of breath. Daniel's grandfather, George Roberts, arranged our marriage as part of a business agreement. Patricia's eyes widened, but to her credit, she didn't interrupt. My father was dying, Maya continued, her voice steady. He needed cancer treatment we couldn't afford. Mr. George Roberts offered to pay for everything if I agreed to marry Daniel for 1 year. It was supposed to be a business arrangement. I needed money for my father's medical care, and Daniel needed to fulfill a trust requirement to inherit his shares in Roberts Industries. So it was a contract marriage, Patricia said carefully. But you're still together, and it's been 6 months. What changed? Daniel spoke up. We fell in love. It wasn't supposed to happen. We both fought against it, actually. But somewhere between the awkward dinners and the public appearances and learning to live together, Maya became the most important person in my life. I didn't want to love him, Maya added, smiling despite the seriousness of the conversation. He was cold and angry at first, resentful about the arrangement. But then I saw who he really was, kind, brave, funny. He ran into a burning building to save a staff member's child. He reads classic literature in his spare time. He remembers how I like my coffee and makes sure the kitchen always has the specific brand of tea I prefer. He's not just the CEO everyone sees. He's so much more. And Maya, Daniel said, looking at her with so much love that Patricia's camera operator actually sighed. She's the strongest person I know. She stood up to my cousin at a gala, defending me when she barely knew me. She treats our staff like family. She sits with me in the library every night, and we read together in comfortable silence. She makes me laugh. She challenges me. She makes me want to be the man she seems to think I already am. So the marriage started as a contract, Patricia summarized, but became real. What about the rumors? The fertility clinic visits, the photos of you with colleagues, the speculation about divorce. All lies, Daniel said flatly. Lies spread by people who benefit from undermining my position in the company. Maya went to that medical building for a routine checkup, but it was spun into a story about fertility problems. The woman I had lunch with is my head of operations, and we were discussing a merger. Everything has been twisted to fit a narrative that simply isn't true. We're not perfect, Maya said. We argue sometimes. We have bad days. But we love each other, and we're committed to making this marriage work. Not because of a contract, but because we choose each other. Every day. Patricia smiled. That's a beautiful story. But I have to ask, some people will say you're only together for the money. How do you respond to that? Maya took a deep breath. Yes, I originally agreed to the arrangement for money, for my father's medical care. I won't apologize for doing whatever it took to save my father's life. But I could have walked away after the first month, after the medical bills were paid. I could have just endured the year and taken my settlement. Instead, I fell in love. And Daniel could have maintained distance, kept our relationship strictly professional. Instead, he chose to open his heart. We both chose this, chose each other, despite the contract and despite what anyone thinks. Daniel, Patricia turned to him, you could have married anyone, someone from your social circle, someone with the right family connections. Why Maya? Daniel's answer was immediate. Because she sees me. Not my bank account, not my family name, not what I can do for her. She sees me, my flaws, my fears, my dreams. She makes me better without asking me to be different. That's not something you find with money or social connections. That's love. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. The interview continued for another hour, covering everything from their first meeting to their hopes for the future. By the end, even Patricia seemed moved. This will air tomorrow night, she said as her crew packed up. I think it's going to change a lot of minds. Your honesty is refreshing in a world of carefully crafted images. After they left, Maya collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. Did we just make a huge mistake? No, Daniel said, pulling her against him. We just took control of our narrative. Let them try to twist the truth now. The interview aired the next evening, and the response was overwhelming. Social media exploded with support. Hashtag Maya and Daniel started trending. People shared their own stories of unexpected love. The gossip columns that had been so vicious suddenly pivoted, praising their honesty and strength. But not everyone was pleased. Marcus called Daniel the morning after the interview aired, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. That was quite a performance yesterday. Playing the love card to deflect from the fact that you only married her for the inheritance. I don't have time for your jealousy, Marcus. Jealousy? I'm trying to save this company from your bad decisions. A contract marriage, Daniel? What were you thinking? I was thinking that I'd do whatever it took to protect my father's legacy. And I found something better in the process, actual happiness. You should try it sometime. This isn't over, Marcus said. The board has concerns about your judgment. An emergency meeting has been called for next week. The call ended, and Daniel felt a chill. Marcus was making his move, using the contract marriage revelation to paint Daniel as unfit to lead the company. We knew this might happen, Maya said when he told her. Marcus was never going to give up. He's going to try to remove me as CEO. If he succeeds, we lose everything, the company, our position, possibly even this house. It all goes to him as the next in line. Then we fight, Maya said firmly. Together. You've been a brilliant CEO. The company's value has doubled under your leadership. You've created jobs, expanded into new markets, treated employees fairly. That's what matters, not how you met your wife. The board is old-fashioned. Some of them will see the contract marriage as scandalous. Then we remind them that arranged marriages have been happening in business families for centuries. We were just more honest about it. And Daniel, Maya took his hands, we have something Marcus will never have, real support. Your employees love you. The other executives respect you. Even your grandfather is on our side. Marcus has ambition and resentment. That's not enough. Daniel pulled her into his arms. How did I get so lucky? You ran into a burning building and impressed your grandfather, Maya said, making him laugh despite the stress. The board meeting the following week was tense. Daniel sat at the head of the conference table with Maya beside him. He'd insisted she attend, saying she was part of this whether the board liked it or not. Marcus presented his case. Daniel's judgment was compromised. The contract marriage showed desperation and poor decision-making. The company's reputation could be damaged by the scandal. Daniel should step down voluntarily, and Marcus would take over as CEO. Several board members nodded along. Maya felt her stomach sink. Then George Roberts stood up. I've sat through a lot of nonsense in my 75 years, he said, his voice carrying authority that silenced the room. But this might be the most ridiculous. Marcus, you're suggesting we remove a CEO who has doubled our company's value, expanded into 4 new markets, and maintained a 98% employee satisfaction rating, because of how he met his wife. The contract marriage shows poor judgment, Marcus started. The contract marriage shows a man willing to do whatever it takes to protect this company. Daniel could have refused, let the shares pass to you, lived his life without these responsibilities. Instead, he stepped up. Yes, it started as an arrangement. So what? My own marriage was arranged by our families. I didn't meet my wife until our engagement party. We were married for 50 years, and I loved her more than life itself. George turned to address the full board. Arranged marriages, contract marriages, these aren't new concepts. What is new is Daniel's honesty about it. He and Maya didn't hide the truth when they could have. They faced it head-on with integrity. That's the kind of leadership this company needs. One of the older board members, Mrs. Adeyemi, spoke up. But the scandal is already dying down, George interrupted. Have any of you actually looked at the public response? People admire their honesty. Our stock price has gone up, not down, since the interview. And more importantly, our employees are rallying behind Daniel. We've received hundreds of letters from staff supporting him. Patrick Webb, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward with a thick folder. I took the liberty of compiling some of these. Would the board like to hear them? Without waiting for an answer, he began reading. Letters from employees across every level of the company, from janitors to executives, praising Daniel's leadership, his fairness, his vision. Letters from business partners commending his integrity. Letters from competitors admitting grudging respect. By the time Patrick finished, even the board members who'd been nodding along with Marcus looked uncomfortable. Motion to remove Daniel Roberts as CEO, George said formally. All in favor? Only 3 hands went up, Marcus and 2 others. All opposed. The rest of the board raised their hands. Motion denied. This meeting is adjourned. Marcus's face was red with fury as he stormed out. But Daniel barely noticed. He was looking at Maya, who had tears streaming down her face. What's wrong? He asked, concerned. Nothing's wrong, she said, laughing through the tears. Everything's right. You won, Daniel. We won. 3 months later, Maya stood in the bathroom of the master suite, staring at a pregnancy test with shaking hands. 2 pink lines. Positive. She was pregnant. It shouldn't have been possible. They'd been careful, mostly. But apparently not careful enough. Or maybe some part of Maya thought it was supposed to happen. She didn't know how to feel. Terrified, certainly. Excited, maybe. But mostly overwhelmed. Because a baby changed everything. A baby made this permanent in a way that even love hadn't. A baby meant they were building a family, building a future together that extended far beyond just the 2 of them. Maya! Daniel's voice came from the bedroom. Are you okay? You've been in there for a while. Maya opened the door, the test still in her hand. We need to talk. Daniel's eyes immediately went to the test, widened, then shot up to her face. Is that are you? I'm pregnant, Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, Daniel just stared at her. Then a smile slowly spread across his face, transforming his features into pure joy. You're pregnant. We're having a baby. You're not upset? Upset. Daniel crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. Maya, this is incredible. Amazing. The best news. We're having a baby. His enthusiasm was infectious. Maya felt her own smile growing. You really mean that? You're happy. I'm ecstatic. He pulled back to look at her, his hands framing her face. I know we didn't plan this, but Maya, this is our future. A real, permanent, beautiful future. Our child. Our child, Maya repeated, the words feeling surreal. Oh God, Daniel, I'm going to be a mother. And I'm going to be a father. His voice was filled with wonder. Our parents would be so happy. Your dad is going to lose his mind. My dad. Maya's eyes widened. We need to tell him. And your grandfather. And oh God, there's so much to do. We need to prepare, get a nursery ready. I need to find a doctor. We need to. Breathe, Daniel said, laughing. We have 8 months to figure it all out. Right now, let's just be happy. Let's just enjoy this moment. So they did. They lay on their bed, Daniel's hand on Maya's still flat stomach, talking about the future. Names they liked, whether they wanted to know the gender, what kind of parents they wanted to be. The sun set outside their windows, painting the room in golden light, and Maya felt a peace she hadn't known she was missing. I love you, she said. You and this baby. Our family. I love you too, Daniel replied. Both of you. More than I ever thought possible. They told Thomas first, at the hospital where he was having a follow-up appointment. His cancer was in remission, the doctors optimistic about his long-term prognosis. When Maya told him about the baby, he cried, happy tears this time. A grandchild, he said, holding Maya's hands. Your mother would be so thrilled. She always said you'd be a wonderful mother. I'm scared, Maya admitted. What if I mess up? What if I don't know what to do? That's every parent's fear, Thomas said. But Maya, look at what you've already accomplished. You took a terrible situation, a contract marriage, and turned it into real love. You've handled being thrust into a world you didn't know with grace and strength. You'll handle this too. And you have Daniel. From what I've seen, that man would move mountains for you. He would, Maya agreed, smiling. George's reaction was almost as emotional. The normally stoic patriarch actually teared up when they told him the news. A great-grandchild, he said, his voice rough. The next generation of Roberts. This family's future. We were thinking, Daniel said. If it's a boy, we might name him George. After you. If that's okay. George had to turn away, his shoulders shaking. When he turned back, his eyes were wet. It would be an honor. And if it's a girl, Rose, Maya said. After Daniel's mother. They would both be so proud of you, George said to Daniel. You've built a real marriage, a real life. That's all I ever wanted for you. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Maya had terrible morning sickness that lasted well into the second trimester. She was tired constantly, emotional, and increasingly uncomfortable as her body changed. But Daniel was there for everything, holding her hair when she was sick, rubbing her swollen feet, reading pregnancy books cover to cover, attending every doctor's appointment. You don't have to come to all of these, Maya said as they sat in yet another waiting room. I know you're busy at work. There's nothing more important than this, Daniel said firmly. You and our baby, that's my priority. The company can wait. When they found out they were having a girl, Daniel actually cried. A daughter, he said, staring at the ultrasound image. We're having a daughter. Rose Victoria Roberts, Maya said, testing out the name. Victoria was her mother's name, a way to honor both their mothers. Perfect, Daniel agreed. But not everything was smooth. 5 months into the pregnancy, Maya was at home when she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Then another. She called for Martha, who took one look at her and immediately called for the driver. Hospital. Now, Martha said, her voice calm but urgent. Maya called Daniel from the car, trying not to panic. Something's wrong. We're going to the hospital. Please hurry. Daniel's voice was tight with fear. I'm on my way. Stay calm, okay? Everything's going to be fine. But what if it wasn't? Maya thought as pain rippled through her again. What if something was wrong with the baby? What if she lost her? The thought made her physically ill. Daniel met them at the hospital, his face pale, still in his business suit from the office. He held Maya's hand as doctors examined her, ran tests, hooked her up to monitors. The baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, perfect. It appears to be Braxton Hicks contractions, the doctor finally announced. False labor. Common at this stage, especially with first pregnancies. But we'll keep you overnight for observation, just to be safe. Maya sobbed with relief. The baby was okay. Their daughter was okay. That night, lying in a hospital bed with Daniel in an uncomfortable chair beside her, Holding her hand even as he dozed, Maya realized something. This was real. All of it, the love, the marriage, the family they were building. It had started as a contract, a business arrangement, but it had become the most real thing in her life. "Thank you," she whispered to Daniel, not sure if he was awake. "For what?" His voice was drowsy but alert. "For choosing me. For loving me. For giving me this family." Daniel stood, careful of all the wires and monitors, and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "You chose me too. And Maya, this family, it's everything. You're everything." Rose Victoria Roberts was born on a rainy June morning after 12 hours of labor. She came into the world screaming, angry at the brightness and cold, her tiny fists waving. But the moment the nurses placed her on Maya's chest, she quieted, her dark eyes, Daniel's eyes, blinking up at her mother. "Hi, baby girl," Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We've been waiting for you." Daniel stood beside the bed, looking down at his wife and daughter with an expression of such pure love that the nurse who was checking Maya's vitals actually got teary-eyed. "She's perfect," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "She's absolutely perfect." Rose had a full head of dark hair like her father, but Maya's nose and chin. She was beautiful and tiny, and made the most adorable little squeaking sounds when she yawned. Daniel was terrified to hold her at first, his hands so large compared to her tiny body, but once the nurse showed him how, he was a natural. "Look at her," he kept saying, marveling at every detail. "Look at her tiny fingers. Her little ears. She's real, Maya. Our daughter is real." Thomas arrived an hour later, now cancer-free and looking healthier than he had in years. When he held his granddaughter for the first time, he wept openly. "She looks just like your mother did as a baby," he told Maya. "The same serious expression, like she's already judging us all." George came that afternoon, bringing enough flowers to fill the entire room. The powerful patriarch of the Roberts family transformed into a besotted grandfather the moment Rose wrapped her tiny hand around his finger. "Welcome to the world, Rose Victoria," he said softly. "You're going to do great things." The first few weeks at home were chaos. Rose had her days and nights mixed up, which meant Maya and Daniel were walking zombies most of the time. Maya's body was recovering from childbirth, her hormones were all over the place, and she cried at everything, commercials, Daniel bringing her tea, the way Rose's little face scrunched up when she slept. "I don't know what I'm doing," Maya confessed one night at 3 a.m., holding a crying Rose and fighting back her own tears. "I can't get her to stop crying. I'm a terrible mother already." "You're not a terrible mother," Daniel said, taking Rose gently and putting her against his shoulder, bouncing slightly. Almost immediately, Rose's cries quieted to hiccups. "You're exhausted and overwhelmed, and that's completely normal. We're both learning. But you're so good at this," Maya said, watching him soothe their daughter with what seemed like natural ease. "And I'm falling apart. Maya, you grew a human being in your body for 9 months, then went through labor to bring her into this world. You feed her every few hours from your own body. You're not falling apart. You're recovering from a major physical event while learning to be a mother. Give yourself some grace." "How are you so wise?" "I've been reading every parenting book I can find," Daniel admitted. "And I called my grandmother's sister. She had 6 kids. She gave me a lot of advice, including that new mothers need support, not criticism. So I'm here to support you, not judge you." Maya's eyes filled with tears again. "I love you so much. I love you too. Now go sleep. I've got Rose duty for the next few hours." "But," "Sleep, Maya. Doctor's orders. My orders. Everyone's orders." So Maya slept, and when she woke 4 hours later to Daniel singing softly to Rose in the nursery they'd set up, her heart felt so full she thought it might burst. Rose's christening was held when she was 2 months old, a beautiful ceremony at the same church where Maya and Daniel had married. Rose wore a family christening gown that had belonged to Daniel's mother, and she was surprisingly well-behaved throughout the ceremony, only fussing slightly when the priest put water on her forehead. The celebration afterward at the Roberts estate was attended by what felt like half of Lagos. Business associates, family friends, staff members, everyone wanted to meet the newest Roberts. Marcus was conspicuously absent, but Maya didn't miss him. Since losing his bid to oust Daniel as CEO, Marcus had retreated, though Maya suspected they hadn't seen the last of him. "She's beautiful," various guests said throughout the day. "She looks just like Daniel. Such a blessed family." Grace pulled Maya aside at one point, both of them watching Daniel hold Rose, showing her off proudly to a group of relatives. You did it, Grace said. You took a fake marriage and turned it into this. Real love, a real family. I'm so proud of you. I got lucky, Maya said. Daniel could have been a nightmare. Instead, he turned out to be everything I never knew I needed. That's not luck. That's you seeing the potential in something difficult and choosing to make it work. That's you being brave enough to fall in love even when it scared you. Give yourself credit. Maya thought about that as she watched her husband with their daughter. Grace was right. This hadn't been just luck. It had been choice. Daniel choosing to open his heart. Maya choosing to stay when she could have walked away. Both of them choosing each other, every day, even when it was hard. Rose was 6 months old when Marcus made his final play. It started with a lawsuit, Marcus claiming that Daniel's marriage had been fraudulent from the beginning, that the contract was illegal, and therefore Daniel's inheritance should be invalidated. He's using the contract against us, Daniel said, reading through the legal documents. Everything we admitted in that interview, he's twisting it, saying we defrauded the trust. Can he do that? Maya asked, bouncing Rose on her hip. The baby giggled, oblivious to the storm brewing around her. He's certainly trying. If he wins, I lose control of Roberts Industries. The shares revert to the trust, and the board would likely vote Marcus in as CEO. But we fell in love. The marriage is real now. The lawsuit claims the foundation was fraudulent, therefore everything after is tainted. It's actually clever in a twisted way. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. So what do? We fight. George is already mobilizing our legal team. But Maya, Daniel's expression was troubled. This is going to get ugly. They're going to dig into everything. Your father's medical bills, the original contract terms, our personal life. They'll try to make you look like a gold digger and me look like a fool. Let them try, Maya said fiercely. I'm not losing you or this family because Marcus is a bitter, jealous man. We have truth on our side. The legal battle was indeed ugly. Marcus's lawyers were ruthless, painting Maya as a woman who'd trapped a wealthy man, who'd gotten pregnant deliberately to secure her position. They brought up her modest background, suggested she'd been coached by George to seduce Daniel, implied their love was all an act. Mrs. Roberts, isn't it true that you agreed to marry Daniel solely for financial gain? Marcus's lead attorney asked during a deposition. Initially, yes, Maya answered honestly. My father was dying. I would have done anything to save him, including entering a contract marriage. But I fell in love with Daniel. That's the truth. Convenient that you fell in love with a billionaire. Convenient? Do you think being thrust into a world I didn't understand was convenient? Being photographed constantly, criticized, having my every move scrutinized? Having articles written about me calling me a gold digger and worse? None of that was convenient. What happened was that I got to know an incredible man. A man who's kind and brave and funny and caring. A man who ran into a burning building to save a child. A man who reads to our daughter every night, even though she's too young to understand. I fell in love with that man. His money was never the attraction. Yet you're fighting very hard to keep access to that money. I'm fighting to keep my family together. There's a difference. The depositions went on for weeks. Daniel was questioned, George was questioned. Even some of the staff were brought in to testify about the early days of the marriage. It was exhausting and invasive, and Maya found herself crying more than once, frustrated by how their love was being twisted into something ugly and mercenary. I hate this, she told Daniel one night after Rose was asleep. I hate that Marcus is making our love story into something dirty. Then let's remind people what our story really is, Daniel said. The next day, they released a statement along with their original contract, heavily redacted to protect certain details, and a joint letter explaining their journey from arranged marriage to real love. They didn't hide anything. They acknowledged the contract, the money, the initial arrangement. But they also shared the truth of how they'd fallen in love, how they'd chosen each other, how they'd built a real family. The public response was overwhelmingly positive. Social media rallied behind them again. Hashtag #StandWithMayaandDaniel trended. People shared their own stories of unconventional beginnings leading to real love. But it was the testimony of one unexpected witness that ultimately won their case. Patrick Webb, George's assistant, took the stand and provided detailed documentation of George's intentions from the beginning. Mr. Roberts never intended this to be a temporary arrangement, Patrick testified. He specifically chose Miss Johnson, now Mrs. Roberts, because he believed she and Daniel would be well suited. He had the permanent marriage amendment drafted before they even signed the original contract. This was always meant to be a potential love match, not a fraud. Are you saying George Roberts was matchmaking? The judge asked, sounding amused despite the serious nature of the proceedings. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Roberts Sr. watched his grandson become increasingly isolated after his parents' death. He saw a young woman who was brave and intelligent and kind, someone willing to sacrifice for family. He gave them both an opportunity to find each other. What they did with that opportunity was entirely up to them. George himself testified next, confirming Patrick's account. I loved my wife for 50 years. Our marriage was arranged by our families, but it was real. I wanted the same chance for Daniel, an opportunity to find love, even if the beginning was unconventional. Marcus is claiming fraud, but the only fraud here is his attempt to steal a company he hasn't earned and break up a family because of jealousy. The judge took 2 weeks to deliberate. They were the longest 2 weeks of Maya and Daniel's lives. They tried to maintain normalcy for Rose's sake, but the stress was evident. Daniel barely slept. Maya found herself checking her phone constantly for news. Finally, the ruling came. They gathered in George's office at Roberts Tower. Daniel, Maya with Rose in her arms, George, and their entire legal team. Patrick read the decision aloud. The court finds that while the marriage between Daniel Roberts and Maya Johnson Roberts began as a contractual arrangement, the evidence clearly shows it evolved into a genuine marriage based on mutual love and respect. The subsequent pregnancy and birth of their child further demonstrates the authenticity of their relationship. The court finds no fraud and rules in favor of the defendants. Marcus Roberts's claim is dismissed with prejudice. The room erupted in cheers. Maya actually collapsed into a chair, relief making her legs weak. Rose, startled by the sudden noise, began to cry, and Daniel took her, holding her close while tears streamed down his face. We won, he said, looking at Maya. It's over. We won. George was smiling wider than Maya had ever seen. That boy finally got what was coming to him. And you too, he looked at Daniel and Maya. You proved that love can come from the most unexpected places. Maya stood in the library of the Roberts estate, now expanded to include a children's section with colorful books and small furniture. Rose, now 3 years old, sat on the floor reading to her baby brother, Thomas George Roberts, named after both their grandfathers, who was 8 months old and mostly interested in eating the book rather than listening to it. No, Tommy, you have to listen, Rose said seriously, sounding exactly like her father when he was trying to explain something. This is the part where the princess finds the dragon. Maya smiled, pulling out her phone to capture the moment. Her life was so different from what she'd imagined 3 years ago when she'd signed that contract. She'd thought she was trading a year of her life for her father's survival. Instead, she'd found everything: love, family, purpose, home. Her novel, ironically titled The Contract, had been published 6 months ago and become a bestseller. She'd gone back to work part-time at Sterling Publishing, now as a senior editor, balancing career and motherhood in a way that felt fulfilling rather than overwhelming. Daniel walked into the library, loosening his tie. He was still CEO of Roberts Industries, the company thriving under his leadership. Marcus had disappeared after the lawsuit. Rumor was he'd moved to London. Good riddance, Maya thought. There are my babies, Daniel said, scooping up Tommy while kissing Rose on the head. And my beautiful wife. How was your day? Rose read 3 books to Tommy. I finished editing a manuscript, and your daughter informed me she wants to be a dragon when she grows up. So pretty normal. A dragon, huh? Daniel grinned at Rose. That's ambitious. A princess dragon, Rose clarified. Like in the story. Even better. Later, after the children were in bed, Rose in her princess-themed room, Tommy in the nursery, Daniel and Maya retreated to their bedroom. The same room where, 3 years ago, they'd kept such careful distance from each other. Now it was filled with the comfortable intimacy of a couple who'd built a life together. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? Maya asked, lying in Daniel's arms. If you'd refused the contract? If I'd found another way to pay for Dad's treatment? All the time, Daniel admitted. And then I thank God for every choice that led me to you. The contract, my grandfather's scheming, even Marcus's attempts to destroy us. All of it brought me here, to this moment, with you and our children. I wouldn't change a single thing. Not even the part where you hated me. I never hated you. I hated the situation. But you. He tilted her face up to kiss her. You were impossible not to love, right from the start. I just fought it for a while. Good thing you lost that fight. Best loss of my life. Maya thought about the scared young woman she'd been, desperate to save her father, agreeing to marry a stranger. She'd thought she was selling a year of her life. Instead, she'd found her whole future. "I love you," she said. "Thank you for taking a chance on us." "Thank you for being brave enough to sign that contract," Daniel replied. "And brave enough to stay when you didn't have to. Brave enough to love me back. Always," Maya promised. "For the rest of our lives." The Roberts estate had grown to include a playground, a treehouse, and what Daniel called controlled chaos, with 3 children running around. Rose was 8 now, brilliant and bossy in equal measure. Tommy was 5, sweet and gentle like his grandfather Thomas. And their youngest, Hope Maya Roberts, was 2, a tiny tornado with her mother's curly hair and her father's stubborn determination. Maya had become a best-selling author with 3 published novels, all exploring themes of love in unexpected circumstances. Daniel had expanded Roberts Industries into new markets while maintaining his reputation as a fair and ethical CEO. They'd established a foundation that helped families pay for cancer treatment, making sure no one else had to face the impossible choice Maya once had. Thomas lived in a cottage on the estate grounds, cancer-free and spending his retirement spoiling his grandchildren. George, now 83, was finally slowing down, but he still came to the office twice a week and never missed Sunday dinner with the family. On their 8th wedding anniversary, Daniel surprised Maya with a trip back to the church where they'd married. Standing in the empty sanctuary, he pulled out a small box. "What's this?" Maya asked. "We're already married." "I know. But 8 years ago, when I put that first ring on your finger, it was for a contract. It was obligation and resentment and everything except what it should have been. So I wanted to give you this." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. "And tell you that I choose you. Not because of a contract or an obligation, but because you're my best friend, my partner, the love of my life. Will you stay married to me, Maya? Not because of the amendment we signed or our children or any practical reason, but just because you want to." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You ridiculous man. Of course I'll stay married to you. I'd marry you again every single day if I could." "That can be arranged," Daniel grinned. "I asked the priest if he'd do a vow renewal ceremony. He's waiting in the vestry." So they renewed their vows with no guests, no photographers, no performance, just 2 people who'd found love in the most unlikely way, promising to keep choosing each other for the rest of their lives. Afterward, driving home to their children and their life, Maya thought about that day 8 years ago when she'd signed a contract that changed everything. She'd thought she was making a sacrifice. She'd thought she was trading temporary unhappiness for her father's life. She'd never imagined she was signing up for the greatest love story she'd ever known. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, his hand finding hers. "That sometimes the best things in life come from the choices we make when we're desperate," Maya said. "That contracts can lead to love. That forced marriages can become real ones. That the CEO I thought was my enemy turned out to be my soulmate. Should I be concerned that you're talking about me in the past tense?" Daniel teased. "Never. You're my present and my future, Daniel Roberts. You're my always. And you're mine," he said. "The best contract I ever signed." They drove home through Lagos traffic, the city lights glittering around them. 2 people who'd started as strangers and become everything to each other. A contract marriage that became a love story. A business arrangement that became a family. Proof that sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings. The end. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional love stories. Drop a comment telling me, would you have signed the contract? Would you marry a stranger to save someone you love? Let me know your thoughts. And stay tuned because next week, we have an even more intense story about a woman who discovers her husband has been living a double life. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Kisses.